Welcome back to SnowRunner, guys, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at a map that a lot of you guys have grown really fond of, and that is Lime's Mud Park, and I'm really happy to report that it has now made the jump over to console systems, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the map and take a look at it. Now, if you're a PC player of SnowRunner, you'll know that Lime's Mud Park was one of the first Mud Park maps to really take off and really grab the community's attention in terms of what can be done with a map solely focused on mud and jumps, but it's actually a lot more than that. Now, this map actually featured one of the very first monster truck playgrounds that really, I think, was ever featured in the game. Now, granted, this was a early map in terms of the PC map making days, but still seeing it here on consoles and seeing the most updated version of it here on consoles is really, really nice to see. Now, I didn't want to come to this map without bringing the monstrosity, of course, because the monstrosity is obviously a wonderful truck, and it really just brings that sense of that sense of everything being just a little bit on the crazy side, because it really is just so tremendously huge. And yes, it still breaks the garage, but you know what? It's gonna break the garage. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you just have to accept that it's gonna break the garage. Although I completely forgot that when I took it out of the garage, it was gonna do this. And I quickly discovered that the only way to actually make it not do this was to equip it with a lower down suspension, which is a little bit unfortunate. And normally what I would do on the PC version of the game is I would use the dev tools to just spawn it somewhere outside of the garage on its own, and then I would use the sort of independent garage that you can activate from the dev tools menu to just put all the options on it that I wanted, and then I would drive it from there. However, the problem with the console mods is that currently you don't have DevTools functionality. At least as of recording this video, we don't have DevTools functionality. Now, I'm sure there's a potential that we could get a sort of condensed version of DevTools later on down the road. Potentially, that has not been confirmed or anything like that, but I'm really hoping that we get something like that, because it could help us a lot. It really, really could, and it could help us avoid scenarios like this. And as you can see, we had to recover back to the garage, and I realized really the only way we could prevent that from happening was to go with a lower suspension option, because then what it does is it does glitch, but it flings you out of the garage, and then once it flings you out of the garage, instead of holding onto your truck or grabbing your truck, it just basically flings you out, and then you fly a little bit, and then you winch yourself back up onto your tires, and then you're good. I am running the biggest tires you can run on the monstrosity. However, I was not able to run, obviously, the largest suspension. Now, I wanted to, just kick this off with, you know what? We had a line of trucks right here. Why not just drive over it? That's what they're there for, right? Well, technically, they're there so you can sell them in case you ever need to boost up your money on this map. That's why they're there. But I figured, you know what? This map just gives you maximum money by default anyway, so you might as well just drive over all of them. Now, I decided to leave that truck at the exit of the garage and go back into the garage and buy Frog's buggy and put the 49-inch mud tires on it, because I also wanted to see how that would do here. Now, with the latest update to Frog's buggy, you can see there are two versions. There's the standard version, and there's also the CDT axle version. Now, what CDT axle means is basically it means that the axles have collision physics. So if you drive over a rock or a stump or something like that, whereas a normal truck in SnowRunner would basically glitch through the object, the CDT axle variant would actually bump into it. It's technically a physical collidable object. Now, this is not the CDT axle version, although I will do some coverage of the CDT axle version of the buggy in the future. Now, CDT axle vehicles are definitely more geared to the player that is looking for a realistic experience. So if you wanted a very realistic crawler buggy experience, I would definitely recommend taking the CDT axle version to a map like Lake Chiatro, because that is probably still the best, if not one of the best, trail riding, rock crawling based maps on consoles. Now, of course, that's up for debate, because there are a lot more off-road and crawling focused maps on consoles now, especially now that we have Truck Night, which has not only the OG challenge, but it also has the two trails off to the side, as well as the quarry, which the quarry has its own obstacles and its own crawling areas. So that's really up to wherever you would like to take it. But back to just to finish my topic about the CDT axle version of this rig, if you are looking for a more realistic crawler experience, that is definitely the one to use. Now, this long dirt straightaway eventually brings us out to one of the biggest mud areas on the map. This is where, if you're looking for, like, you know, deep mud pits or where you can really see whether or not you can sink a truck, this is where to do it. Now, unfortunately, we did flip the crawler over, and I know I am totally prepped and ready for all the comments that are gonna say, well, of course you did, because you flip everything. Now, to be fair, I understand where the reputation may suggest that, but I think sometimes, you know, when you're way out in the middle of one of those mud pits, it really does pay to have a recovery vehicle out there. And also, can I just say that the mud tires on the Monstrosity are absolutely awful on pavement, but, you know, that's not really a complaint, that's more of a statement, because of course they are. But as you'll notice, actually, kind of in conjunction with the way the highway system is on West Georgia Mud Park, this map has a fairly similar highway system that runs along the left-hand side of the map, and once you finish out the highway area, you can basically kind of connect up to all the different mud pits and all the different mudding areas on the map itself, and of course the monster truck area, the monster truck sort of stunt park. Now, the monster truck stunt park is really good for doing jumps or driving around obstacles or attempting to do backflips. The SnowRunner physics system doesn't really like to do backflips, so take that with what you will in terms of attempting to do backflips on this map. And I'll show you the backflip obstacle later, and I'm not going to attempt it in the Monstrosity because the Monstrosity is way too long and it doesn't really work very well for it. However, there is also, right next to the monster truck area, the monster truck stunt park, there is a jump that leads directly into a mud pit, which the Monstrosity absolutely loves that. Now, this quick little mud pit on the edge of the road, I definitely wanted to sort of dip the Monstrosity into that and just see what it would be like, what it would do. However, I do recommend, if you're going to spend a lot of time on this map, I definitely recommend using some dedicated and more focused mud trucks or mud vehicles. Even Frog's custom crawler with the 49-inch mud tires does work very well. I know we didn't really use it for very long, but it does work very well if you're looking for a little bit more of a realistic mudding experience. And if you're looking for a map that really fills that niche of, you know, very mud-focused slash monster truck-focused, but you can also do a lot of top speed testing here, this map definitely fills that void, in my opinion, and I would absolutely recommend adding it to your list of mods on your console if that's something you've been looking for. Now, this is the area with some really deep mud right across from the monster truck stunt park. Now, you can do donuts in here in the Monstrosity, and while it is a lot of fun to do, I highly recommend spending a lot of time in that stunt park area. Now, the other thing about the Monstrosity is, while I do like to use it to give map tours, I would definitely probably spend most of my time here in the buggy. The thing about the Monstrosity is that it makes it really simple to show a large area of map space in a shorter amount of time, so I feel like I can give you guys a little bit more of a complete tour using the Monstrosity. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different jumps out here, there are a lot of different areas, and there are a lot of different ways you can test your trucks, and what I like to use this for is I like to use it for not only testing the way my truck actually does the jumps, but I like to test what speed you should approach the jumps in and what gear you should approach the jumps in, and basically you could use these areas to actually hone in your technique in terms of going off of the jumps and also figuring out what the truck's like. Now, granted, right there, what we did wrong was we actually came at it with too much throttle, and when the back wheels hit the edge of the jump, it actually kicked the truck forward, and it probably would have been much more okay if we didn't do that. And then we go back to doing donuts in the mud, which surprisingly is very easy and also very fun to do in the Monstrosity. This particular one is running the MudRunner, well, actually, not the MudRunner power level, but it's running the MudRunner gearbox with the quote-unquote all the power engine option. So if you do want to rebuild this particular variant, you can do it by just replicating those few little features. Now, the weird thing about that jump is it highlights a couple of things that are weird about the Monstrosity's physics, because if you try to land a jump and you land it just a little bit too far forward on the front tires, it'll basically just make it spin around this, like, central axis on the nose of the vehicle, and I'm not sure why it does that. I think that's just sort of a glitch within the physics system of SnowRunner itself, and doesn't really have much to do with, like, the actual programming of the monstrosity. I think that's just how the game's physics system reacts to a truck this big with tires this big, because, you know, if we're being honest, this game was never intended to have a truck this big in it, but thanks to the magic of mods, and thanks to the developers for allowing mods on console, it is possible. So there are weird little physics anomalies that will happen from time to time, and you just kind of have to take them in stride and go from there. But if you guys enjoyed this quick look at West Georgia Mud Park in SnowRunner, then make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to y'all later.